The Chargers have seen their COVID issues worsen this week, but they're nowhere near as bad as the Houston Texans. I'm not even sure the Texans are going to be able to field a team this weekend. So, needless to say, the Chargers should win handily this weekend.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade. Merry Christmas to everyone. We also have David Drogemeyer, my co-host, here as well. We've been covering the Chargers for more than 5 seasons, doing our own Facebook Live show to start Chargers Domination Live. Now this is our 4th season as the host of Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. All right, guys. Well, I've obviously been getting into the eggnog already, but Merry Christmas. We wanted to give you guys a show to listen to as everyone's traveling and running around on Christmas Eve. Everyone be safe, but it's a very jolly time of the year because the Chargers, even with a lot of issues, get the Houston Texans this week, which is also the second bad team that they've played this year only, right? Them and the Giants are really the only bad teams. David is going to the game, so that's very exciting. But if you guys don't want to miss a show, make sure to subscribe to the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel, which we just started and has done really well. Thank you guys for all of that so far. And follow for free on all platforms wherever you get your podcast from. But we have a lot to get into today because we have to get into our keys for success. And I think for me, David, it's similar to the Giants game where it's like the Chargers have to just stay out of their own way. But there's definitely some places they can really exploit this week against whoever is out there for the Houston Texans. Then we'll get into our offensive keys for success. See if the Chargers can kind of fine-tune things going down the stretch in this game. I think there's some experimental things or just some things they should clean up before they head into some of the tougher games later in the year. Then we'll get into the laundry list of COVID names and the injury report, which has Darwin James on it. Not ideal for the Chargers at the end of the show before getting into our bold in-game predictions. But today's episode is brought to you by On Location, the official hospitality partner of the NFL, is the only place to score a once-in-a-lifetime Super Bowl ticket and experience package. Visit onlocationexp.com/SB56 for more information or search Super Bowl On Location. All right, David, well, defensively for the Chargers, they're missing some big names potentially. And that's the weird thing about this week is just we've heard about all these more lenient COVID policies and things like that, but we haven't seen anyone come off of the COVID list, right, for the Chargers now. And they're pretty thin at some positions. I mean, at edge rusher, Uchenna Nwosu is really the only guy. I mean, no Joey Bosa. We don't know about Chris Rump. We also have Kyler Fackrell on IR. Kenneth Murray, Jerry Tillery. Who are we going to see out there? Safety, Darwin James, we don't know about at this point. They're super thin at that position. So when you're looking at this team, obviously it's a lowly team with the Houston Texans. But what are your keys for success for the Chargers defense of the guys that are going to be out there?
Yeah, I mean, the first key for success for me is getting pressure on Davis Mills. And I mean, when you look at the stats for this guy, when he's under pressure, he's obviously a completely different quarterback. He's only completing 46.7% of his passes, including 6 interceptions over the middle of the football field as well. So those linebackers, the safeties, they should definitely be looking over the middle. This guy doesn't really throw the ball with a lot of velocity as well. He does tend to kind of float some balls, try to get them over defenders. So those defenders have to be ready and willing to take the football away. And a good way to do that is to get pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, and I think for this game specifically, it's finding creative ways to get pressure because you don't have
for sure.
your normal artillery out there, right? So if you have Kenneth Murray and Uchenna Nwosu as your 2 edge defenders, I mean, it's going to be pretty easy for the Texans to know where to slide their protection, right? If they have any offensive linemen to protect Davis Mills back there. But like they know who the best guy is out there at all times. It's going to be Uchenna Nwosu. Also a big game for the interior defensive line, who is much more intact than the edge defenders, to get some push up the middle, because especially young quarterbacks, nobody wants to not be able to step into a pocket. And that's when you start floating some throws, is when you don't have a clean pocket to step up into. So I think that is going to be huge. And I think it's also really, as far as, not shooting yourself in the foot, I think one way you can do that is just by stopping the run and cleaning up the tackling and bad angles. I mean, I think we saw last week what that did. The explosive plays that the Chiefs had came from missed tackles, came from bad angles. That's something that you can't have in this game in particular. And you just look back to last week for the Texans. Brandon Cooks was probably not going to play, so maybe this is a bad example. But one of the things that Davis Mills also loves to do is throw it short of the sticks on third downs, right? Third down and long.
Yeah.
They're going to throw it short of the sticks a lot. And you have a good chance to get tackles if you're just tackling in the open field. But if you don't, it could turn into a 43-yard wide receiver screen touchdown, which is how they got one of their scores last week, David. So that's why tackling, better angles, and all those things stand out to me, because the Texans will go 3-and-out. I mean, going into last week, they were worst in the league as far as going 3-and-out. 28.4% of their drives ended in a 3-and-out, right? So it's about as bad as it gets.
Yeah, and I would also look to protect the boundaries as well, because a lot of the times when they are getting the ball out quickly, they're trying to get to the boundaries and get them out of bounds and get those easy 6 and 7 yard passes to try to set up those third and short situations, which they're not in very often
Right.
from what I saw when I was watching them. One thing, I mean, if Brandon Cooks does play, you bracket him for sure, because he's really their only offensive weapon, if we can be honest. He's 119 targets, 80 receptions, 945 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And the next closest person to him is Nico Collins, a rookie wide receiver who had 44 targets, 25 catches, and 311 yards. So the disparity between the weapons is absolutely insane. So one guy I think I did identify as a guy you kind of have to worry about, especially in the red zone, is the tight end Brevin Jordan. I think he is one of their red zone targets or red zone threats. So if the Texans get into a situation where they are in the red zone, more often than not, they're probably going to be looking for their tight end Brevin Jordan.
Yeah, and the Chargers have given up a fair amount of tight end touchdowns this year. I mean, they're one of the worst in the league as far as once you get in the red zone, stopping tight ends from getting into the end zone. So that is something for sure. And I think it's also, it's not a good running team. Like, one of the only ways the Texans could really stay in this game, theoretically, as we see it right now, is by being able to lean on the Chargers, limit the possessions for the offense, which is still mostly intact, and running the football 5 yards at a time, right? And just having long consuming drives where you can't get off the field on these 3rd and 2s where they're just going to keep running the football. They've only eclipsed 100 rushing yards twice in this season, right? They've had 8 games where they've had 75 yards or less.
Cody told me something that was really interesting. Their leading rusher is a guy that hasn't played in 2 months, which is absolutely insane to me. I mean, they got a lot of guys that have touched the football, but not a lot of guys that have had any kind of success.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like 207 yards is their leading rusher this season. So, and then David Johnson is the next guy. I think he's at like 205, and he hasn't practiced all week with a quad injury. So, there's no excuses. I mean, the Chargers have been much better against the run. There's no excuses to not be good against the run in this one. And going back to kind of what you were talking about before, I just think it's a big for the Chargers defense to maybe pick up some momentum with some turnovers. They will turn the ball over. And in their 3 wins they have this season, they've only turned the ball over 1 time in those combined 3 games.
And 2 of those are against the
Jaguars.
The Jacksonville Jaguars.
100%. And I mean, they have 20 turnovers this year, so it's not as if you can't turn them over. But that's just to say, I mean, in a game like this, especially in a shorthanded defense, one of the things that will help you out is by taking the football away. And with all the missing pieces for the Houston Texans, especially on that offensive line.
And they'll give up sacks too. I mean, they'll definitely give up sacks. Yeah. Davis Mills will hold on to the football a little bit too long when he just doesn't know where to go with the football, and he will definitely take some sacks. There's no question about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Chargers definitely could get in there. I mean, it's hard to say, I mean, with the lack of edge rushers that they have, to say anything super confidently, especially with, I mean, it's harder to blitz when you don't have the guys on the back end that you need. And I think we've seen that from the Chargers. Yeah. When you don't, but we've also seen the
Chargers get really creative when Joey Bosa wasn't out there and really do a good job of bringing some pressure in some different ways. So I'm sure we're going to see some of that in this game as well.
I mean, I think they have to. I think they have to be able to manufacture it. But, I mean, that's the thing, though, too, is you can get creative without blitzing as well. I mean, a lot of those, you know, when Bosa they were checking him out for the concussion that game. There were some blitzes, but a lot of it is just stunts and games and things they're doing with the 4-man rush. But before we get in the next segment, though, I do think we have to shout out the Pro Bowlers for the Chargers because we didn't get to talk about it with the crossover event yesterday. So, first of all, Austin Eckler totally robbed. Not snubbed, 100%. Not anything else. You know, credit to Brian Taylor there. Credit to Rick on Facebook, Brian Rick, for saying that because he had said, like, he didn't get snubbed, he got robbed, and that was 100%. And he should have. I mean, second most touchdowns, second most all-purpose yards out of any running back. We talked about it that day. He has to make it. He definitely deserves it. He doesn't. But still shout out, Justin Herbert, starting quarterback in the AFC over Patrick Mahomes, over Lamar Jackson. How cool is that? Rashawn Slater as a rookie, a Pro Bowler. Keenan Allen, well-deserved. Corey Linsley as well. Joey Bosa. Yeah, exactly. All those guys, all very deserved. And 5 starters, right? That's the other thing, is having 5 guys.
Out of the 6 Pro Bowlers are starting in this game, or they're not going to play at all because they'll be playing in the Super Bowl. But to get that kind of recognition, to have 6 of your guys, 2 of them on the offensive line, especially looking at this offensive line from last year, there's no way you would have believed that they have 2 Pro Bowlers on this offensive line. So you got to give credit for them. And just like I said, really well represented. Awesome job.
And Darwin James too. Being able to come back and you're, after almost missing 2 years, to be a Pro Bowl, or,
remind everyone how good you are, Darwin. We see
for sure. And the Pro Bowl is a fan vote, and the Chargers fans came through. So that Chris Broussard thing was nonsense, obviously, because the Chargers literally, Justin Herbert, he said he didn't get the fan vote as the guy was leading the NFL in fan voting as far as quarterbacks.
Blah, blah.
So that is funny. But I think it just also shows you how much respect other people in the league have as far as players and coaches, because that's 2/3 of the vote. So you're not getting it if you don't have the respect of other guys throughout the league. So as much as All Pro is definitely the better representative of how good you're playing, Pro Bowl is now, it's still something that's worth something, especially to these players. And it means something when you're getting that kind of respect from your peers. And I think, especially the young guys would definitely tell you that. But we had to get into the Chargers offense, who I think really, has to just avoid disasters, right? Just against the Giants, you can't have the disaster plays. You can't have those things that are going to just kill you and keep the other team in it. And you also have a chance to work on maybe some 4th down execution, some red zone execution, some things you have to fine tune before you get ready for this stretch, because it's all playoff games from here on out for the Chargers to make sure that they get in. So we're going to get into the offensive side of things coming up right after this. But first, I need to tell you guys about the best Christmas present that I got this year, and it's definitely my Built Bars. I got a package of Built Bars. They're my favorite protein bar, and one of the best things you can get for someone for the holidays, and I got mine. And one of the things I love about Built Bars is you're just getting the best of both worlds. It's so hard to find something that's healthy, but also tastes great, right? And fits on your diet while also tasting like a candy bar. That's just not something that happens very often. And Built Bar has you covered there, because you can find something that's going to help you get through your day, right? I always eat one when I get home from work before I start the podcast prep. It just gets me out of my nappy mood that I have pretty much every day around 4 or 5 o'clock. I love Built Bars for that. And they're very filling as well. So we can, while you're out and about, I always try to take some with me so I have them there. But the flavors are really what set them apart as well, because there's so many great flavors to choose from. You can go cookies and cream or peanut butter brownie. Those are my 2 favorites. You can go double chocolate, cherry, mint brownie as well. There's going to be a flavor that you're going to love with Built Bar, and you're going to get something that's high in protein while being low in carbs and low in sugar as well. And right now, you guys can even save some money on Built Bars. If you go to Built.com, you can use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15, all caps, one word, for 15% off at Built.com. I also need to tell you guys about the best daily fantasy going right now. And of course, I'm talking about Stat Hero, because Stat Hero is a brand new way to play daily fantasy football. Everyone has played some sort of that, and a lot of people are in fantasy football leagues right now. But if you're like me, 2 of your 3 teams are not in the playoffs right now. I know a lot of people probably just got bounced from the playoffs too. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm really sorry about that. But this is what makes Stat Hero so much different, because with Stat Hero, you get to see the team that you're going up against. So before you get your budget, before you pick the guys that you want, you're going to know who you're going up against. Because a lot of times when I played other daily fantasy, I would end up with like 6 of the same players, right? Is the other person I'm going up against. So it's like I was really relying on like 3 dudes to go try to win me my game that week, right? And it was my 3 dudes versus him. That's different here, because you're going up against the house. And this is the only place you're going to find something like that. This week, the special is you have to find a trio of wide receivers that can beat out T. Higgins, CeeDee Lamb, and Keenan Allen. If you can do that, you can take that house money, make some money at Stat Hero. I definitely am going to put my hand to throw my hat in the ring for sure. But that's just what I love about Stat Hero. It's just a different way to play daily fantasy. With Stat Hero, you are in control of the stakes. You decide how much you're going to play for. And Stat Hero has no choice but to take it, because they're daring you to beat them. And right now, you guys can sign up for free at stathero.com/lockedon and use the promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% deposit match. That's a house money to play with. That's stathero.com/lockedon with the promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% match. stathero.com/lockedon, promo code LOCKEDON. Terms and conditions apply. All right, David, well, it's time to get into the offensive keys here. And like I said before, I think it is a lot about the Chargers just staying out of their own way. So when you're looking at this one, where would you go as far as what you want to see from the Chargers offense this week?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely right about that for sure. But I think one thing we saw against the Chiefs on Thursday night was the Chargers really controlled the line of scrimmage by running
Yes,
the football and
both
running the
sides.
football very effectively. Definitely both sides for sure, but they imposed their will against the Kansas City Chiefs defensive line. They ran the ball at will, and it didn't really matter who was running the football. They were getting big, large chunks. Well, guess what? You're going up against the worst run defense in the NFL in the Houston Texans. Yeah, that used to be the Chargers, but it isn't
Fourth
anymore.
worst now.
Fourth worst, baby. But the Texans are giving up 145 rushing yards per game and almost 180 rushing yards per game in their last 3 games. So I expect to see Justin Jackson getting the lion's share of the carries. He was coming off of one of his best games of his career, not let alone this season, but one of the best games of his career by my standards. So I want to see him get the football a lot. Also, give some carries to Joshua Kelly, just hopefully not in the red zone. Yeah, I want to see the Chargers really control the tempo of this game, run the football a lot. I think they're going to be up. I really believe that. Obviously, there's just nothing about this Texans team that scares me. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities to run some clock and get some big chunks in the running game.
Well, the other thing too, David, is the dynamic duo is back on the left side. You have Rashawn Slater and Matt Filer, easily your two best run blockers so
Yes,
far this
sir.
year, and the number one place where the Chargers have had success running the football, right? Going
Yep.
behind that left side. But I mean, what a showcase event for these dudes, right? I mean, whether it's Larry Roundtree, who probably gets activated for this one, Josh Kelly, who at least has looked a little bit better running the football, even though he couldn't hold
Yeah.
on to it and tried to leap from the 3 yard line. One of the dumbest decisions I've seen in the red
God.
zone. But I mean, that's another thing for me, though, is just the Chargers cleaning things up in the red zone. I mean, I think when you look at the difference
Yes.
last week, it's how you executed in the red zone, how you executed on fourth down. And that's what I think has to be better for the Chargers this week. Because let's not forget, I mean, 3 trips inside the opponent's 6 yard line where you came away with 0 points. That's terrible, right? That's something you can clean up against
Can't
the
have it.
Texans and a way for you to put the Texans away, right? And not let a
Yeah.
team like this really try to hang with you, right? So if you can clean that up, 2 out of 5 in fourth down last week, you probably are going to see a fourth down attempt. I would say with Brandon Staley is a pretty safe bet. Better execution on those downs, right? And obviously in the red zone, that's just always been a thing. They've been a lot better at scoring touchdowns in the red zone. They still scored a lot of red zone touchdowns last week, but obviously left a lot on the table as well. And also catch the football is always a nice thing to do in the red zone as well. Could, save you some points, I'd say.
Or make you some points, right? I
Yeah.
mean, catch the damn ball. But yeah, I mean, that's obviously was on my list as well. Just when you get into the red zone, score touchdowns. You got to execute against this team. I mean, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to do that in this game for sure.
When you
My
have your
next
full
one,
complement of weapons too, Dave, and that's the important thing to remember about this game. I mean, you're missing Jalen Guyton probably, right?
right?
But for the
Yeah,
Chargers offense, you have most of your offensive line minus Corey Linsley, pretty much your entire receiving core, your entire tight end group. There's no reason the Chargers shouldn't put up 30. Like,
right. And my next thing was throw the ball at will. I mean, it's really as simple as that. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful, but the Chargers can get whatever they want through the air. I mean, they can attack anybody. It doesn't matter. Get the ball to Keenan Allen, get the ball to Mike Williams early on, get their confidence rolling, and really go out there and put some big stats up because I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities to do that with these two premium wide receivers and really nobody on that defensive side that's capable of covering those guys one-on-one from a snap-to-snap basis. So I think the Chargers are going to have a lot of fun in this game. I think there's going to be a lot of passing yards through the air, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities for all of these wide receivers to catch some footballs.
yeah, I mean, for sure. Their leader in interceptions got put on the COVID list as well as one of the 21 players, right? So that's something that they're going to, really struggle, I think, to contain from the Chargers offense. And it's a defense, I mean, that going into it without all of the issues. I mean, they've had some COVID issues, but obviously nothing like it is this week. But they were already the 23rd worst team as far as stopping explosive passing plays. They're the 31st in explosive run plays allowed. So, I mean, that big plays. Find the big plays in this one. That's one thing, obviously, we always want to see from the Chargers offense. But it's like I said, I mean, they're all playoff games. This is a chance. They shouldn't overlook the Texans, right? Both teams are missing a lot of
Right.
players. They're missing half of their team. How, 40% of their roster right now, obviously. But when you're going up against a team like this, the one thing you want to see them do is, fix some of the things, fine tune some of those things that they're going to need down the stretch. And, like I said, another way to put a team like this away, because if you're getting explosive plays, if you're running the football well, if all those things are going right against a team that's not very good in general when they are healthy, you're going to obviously win this game easily, right? If you take care of that business. And like I said, no disaster plays, right? The Texans did take a kickoff back for a touchdown last week. You can't have any blocked punts this week, right? That's how you let bad teams hang with you. That's the only way I see the Texans hanging with the Chargers this week. If things like this happen, red zone fumbles, right? A fumble picked up in return for a touchdown, a pick six. Like, those are the only things I think for the Chargers going up against this team that could really give them any trouble. And it'll be them, with self-inflicted wounds. That would be the only way I think that the Texans can hold with, hang with the Chargers at all. But there's a lot of players on the COVID list that we haven't talked about. And,
yes, there is
a big name for the Chargers on the injury report too. And I think it'll be a fun day of bold predictions as well. So we're going to get into our game and bold predictions, as well as all the names on the COVID list and the injury report for the Chargers and the Texans coming up right after this. But first, I need to tell you guys about the official betting sponsor of the Locked On Chargers podcast, and I'm talking about betonline.ag. BetOnline has you guys covered this holiday season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues its march towards the college bowls and the pro football playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all sports action this season, and bowl season is the best time to be betting on any kind of bowl or any kind of college football, I should say. Plus, we have games all the time. Like, we have Christmas Day games, in the NFL, which almost never happens. We got a loaded slate on Sunday after, everyone's done running around for the holidays. You're going to have a full day of football, and BetOnline is the number one place to send all of your sports action, especially for the bad games more than anything, because nothing makes a game more interesting than by having a little bit of action on it. And if you guys head to the website or use our mobile device to sign up today, you guys can receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit with the promo code LOCKEDON. That's promo code LOCKEDON, all caps, one word, for a 50% welcome deposit when you guys go to betonline.ag. That's house money to play with. When you can win money with somebody else's money, it feels even better. And whether it's basketball, football, NHL, boxing, or UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers they have for the 2021 season. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, David. Well, thank you guys for making us your first listen, and Merry Christmas again. But we do have one more segment to get into, because this game is weird, David. I mean, this is the hardest that we've seen the Chargers hit by COVID this year, and the Texans are lapping them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Texans are doubling them up. And I honestly don't mean to laugh about this, but it's just
ugly.
Crazy how out of control this has gotten. Like, how do the Texans field the team right now? I mean, at least 21 players on the COVID list. I mean, there's 22 starters, right? Not all these guys are starters, but that just, I think, shows you how crazy this is, how many players the Texans are missing. And when the Chargers have Austin Eckler, Joey Bosa, and Corey Linsley on the COVID list, and they're not the team in the worst shape going into a game, that is telling you something there, David, because those are three huge names. But I do want to, with the Chargers, obviously, a ton of guys on the list. Tristan Vizcaino is the latest on the practice squad, and that obviously doesn't matter too much as far as what's going to happen on Sunday. And it'd be a bigger deal if, Dustin Hopkins, then you have to bring up Tristan Vizcaino. Then it's a different conversation. But Joey Bosa, Keenan Hall ruled out already, right? Then you add in Trey Marshall, who's your third string safety, and Darwin James has not practiced at all this week. Joe Gaziano, your phenom special teams player for the Chargers, Andre Roberts, Chris Rump, Tavon Campbell, Chase Daniel, Jalen Guyton, Corey Linsley, Austin Eckler, Joey Bosa, I already said. So those are huge names. If you could have one of those guys, though, back for this game, David, but some big names on that list, who would you pick?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really tempting to say Joey Bosa, right? Just to, see how impactful he's been and all the strip sacks and just the incredible year that he's had, getting the ball back. But I think for me, it's Corey Linsley. It's really, really important what he's meant to this Chargers team this year. Being able to really take some of that protection stuff away from Justin Herbert, be able to kind of identify what the defense is in and get as much information as possible to his fellow offensive linemen and, the rest of the players on the offense. and he's just played at an incredible level. I mean, he's going to be a Pro Bowler this year. He very well could be an All Pro again. He's just been absolutely phenomenal this year. So I mean, it's really hard to quantify how important he's been to this Chargers offensive line, but I think he's the main reasons why there's been such an incredible turnaround.
Yeah, and I think for me, I mean, it would be the same answer. And we talked about this before the show. I was like, it's crazy that with Joey Bosa on the list that you'd pick, Corey Lindsey, Austin Eckler,
Yeah,
right? I mean, I think with Austin
yeah.
Eckler, it's okay for him to get another week for that ankle,
Well,
right?
yeah, he's got the
Especially going
ankle.
down the
Yeah,
stretch. Exactly. So,
yeah.
like with that one, that was easy. But Joey Bosa, you know, probably, if he's not your best, he 1A, 1B best defensive players with
Oh
Darwin
yeah,
James. I mean,
yeah.
there's no other way around it. But Corey
No
Lindsey
doubt.
almost just makes your offense whole. Yes, you're missing at running back, and nobody can replace Austin Eckler, but like that Chargers passing attack with a fully intact offensive line, and the only receiver you're missing is Jalen Guyton with your full complement of tight ends, like that should be able to put up
Dangerous.
30 against anybody and 50 against the Texans, right? So like that would
Yeah,
just make it complete. And that in a game like this where everything's already weird, that you're protecting Justin Herbert, which is obviously the most important thing at all times anyways. But
yep.
let's look at the Texans side of things here. Well, and also, Chargers side of things. Darwin James did not practice all week, right? And it's weird just because they said he didn't make it worse at all in the game, but he was a game time decision. Maybe they're feeling like he's a game time decision this week too. Obviously, I don't think he's going to play after not practicing all week.
I don't want to see him play. I'm going to be honest. I mean,
Yeah,
you
I
really
get
need
that.
him healthy for the Broncos and for the Raiders to end the season because
David
you
looking
know,
straight past the Texans.
yeah, and I know I shouldn't, but
You should.
Derwin James, he needs to be healthy. And if he needs to sit this week and sit this game for him to feel as close to 100% against the Broncos and the Raiders, games that you know are going to be tougher than this one, I mean, I think that's really the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the thing is like there's no team that you can ever take lightly. You can
Sure.
never afford to sit healthy players against any NFL team. I mean, that's always just been my philosophy. Obviously,
Yeah. Yeah.
if there's a game, like if you're choosing, okay, he has to miss a game, what game? This would be a great game. We said the same thing with Keenan Allen against the Giants, right? It's like, yeah, if
Yeah.
there was a game, this would be a great game for him to miss, but like you cannot sit healthy players at all. So
Yeah.
like obviously if he was healthy, I'd say you play him. If it's borderline at all, you obviously sit him. And that there's no question about that part of it. But it's obviously a huge absence because now you have Alohi Gilman who looks like he's going to be coming back. That's good news. Asante Samuel Jr. looks like he could be coming back. That's
Thank
great
God.
news, right? That makes
Yes.
you feel better about it. But the safety position, David, Trey Marshall is your third string guy. He's on the COVID list.
Yeah.
Alohi Gilman's your backup. Now he's starting. Nazir Adderley is your starter on the other side. So you have two guys, two of your top three safeties, let's say, out there.
Yeah.
Who the hell is behind them, right? Mark Webb's on injured reserve. You don't have him
Mhm.
as an option. I mean, it's Ben DeLuca. Like, they just don't have back there. I mean, Keeman Hall is a guy that's, has some flexibility who you can put back there. He's on the
He's
COVID
out.
list as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing is, the other thing about this whole COVID list thing is just like, there's a chance we see some guys activated, on Christmas Eve on Friday, on Christmas
Yeah.
Eve on Saturday.
For
Like,
both teams.
for both teams, for sure. Especially,
Yeah.
the guys early in the week, the Corey Linsley, that first wave, you're hoping to get some of those guys back, but it's just impossible to say. Like, literally, it's impossible to say because the Chargers
Yeah.
still have not had a player test positive and playing a game the next week. Pretty much all these guys are, I mean, all of them are positive except for Keeman Hall and Joey Bosa. So that's what's going to get tested this week. And even there's no excuses, though. Chargers should still win this game because the Texans are a bad team, and also because the Texans have 21 players on the COVID list, including probably their best player, Brandon Cooks.
Yeah. It's bad. I mean, the Texans, I mean, everywhere you look, their offensive line for their starters are out. Their defensive line for their starters are out. I mean, their secondary, it's ravaged. I mean, everywhere you look, there are deficiencies because of COVID for the Texans. And I mean, I thought this
21
game
players.
might have been in jeopardy, but it seems like the NFL's like, nah, I don't care. You guys are going to go out there and play.
And there's
It
still a
doesn't really
couple of
matter.
days. Like, it could get
Yeah,
worse.
it could get worse. Yeah,
It's just wild. But yeah, I mean,
it's crazy.
3 linebackers, including all your starting linebackers, 7 defensive linemen. Like, you're talking about starters. Like, who are you playing at that point?
Yeah.
7 defensive linemen? You're taking 7 players away from any. Like, the Chargers have 7 defensive linemen. That would be literally all of their defensive linemen. You know what I mean? So, like, that's crazy. 4 offensive linemen, 80% of your starting offensive line is out with a rookie quarterback who's a 3rd-round pick who's, looked decent. And that's the thing, too, is Davis Mills, it's not against him. In the last couple games, he's looked okay. You know what I mean? Like, he's not anything special or anything like that. But, like, if you give any team open throwing windows, like I said with Mike Glennon, down to that game, anybody can make certain throws if you leave it open enough. But my God, I don't even know how this looks like once it gets out there on Sunday. Like, I can't even give you, like, we're going through keys for success, and mine were more off, Chargers related, because it's like, yeah, I can't tell you about the Texans' 5th string linebacker. I don't know. They're 6th
Yeah.
string defensive lineman.
I don't even think they know.
Their 3rd string, I can tell you about Cole Toner, you know what I mean? But like,
Yeah.
he's like their 3rd string right guard, but like, I don't know these dudes, you know what I mean? So that's why it's like, I'm not going to be fake about it. Like, who know? I don't even know if they know how they should feel about some
That's
of the
what
guys.
I'm saying. They don't even know.
Exactly. Like, I mean, God bless Cody Davis, right, for
Yes.
doing what he has to do with this team. But
Man.
it's crazy, David. And yeah, so the Chargers, injury wise, look like they're going to be missing Donald Parham. No surprise there.
Yeah.
Whenever he comes back, he comes back. They
Get
didn't
better,
put him on
DP.
injured reserve. Yeah, I mean, so like, there's a chance he comes back before the end of the season. Such a scary injury. Take your time.
Sure.
But David, I think there's some fun bold predictions that can be made for this game. So where are you going with this one?
Yeah, I mean, mine is going to be fun, and I think Charger fans are going to love it, but I really see it as a very real possibility. It's that Justin Herbert's going to have 4 touchdowns in the first half.
I can't. No, I mean, I'm not going to put that past him. Like I think the 4 touchdowns is an important part of it, because the one thing I could see is the Chargers, kind of like what you've seen in like the Giants game where they stop throwing it, especially
Yeah.
when things get way out of hand and they're running the ball more. So like, I think touchdowns wise is a smarter pick on that one than yardage, because like,
Yeah.
I think he was on pace for like 410 yards in the first half of that Giants game, and he ended up with like 270 something. They didn't need it. You know what I mean? They
Right.
didn't need it at all really in the second half. And then Chase Daniel was in there eventually. Hey, it's going to be Easton Stick.
Yeah, it
Stick
is.
backup quarterback this week, I just thought about. But I like that one. I'm going to say that the Chargers ragtag group of running backs is going to go for 180 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in this one. And that's without Austin Eckler, which would be very impressive, and I think would give the Chargers a lot more confidence in the stable outside of Eckler, right? So I think that's great, and I think it's something that's definitely attainable by this team. And I also have another bold prediction, but I'm going to save that for the game prediction. So, David, all right, we all have a chance to look really stupid right now if the Chargers don't take care of business this weekend. What are you going to say for this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no chance that the Texans can win this game.
I swear, if the Chargers
Even
do
fully
this to
healthy.
us, ugh.
Yeah, even fully healthy, I don't think they have a chance. And the Chargers, obviously, both teams are dealing with COVID, but the Chargers are clearly the healthier team and overwhelmingly the more talented team. So I think it's going to be 38-7 Chargers.
38-7.
Yeah.
Damn. I mean, yeah. Don't do it, Chargers. Don't do anything stupid. Like, we're gonna both say outrageous things right now, and like, just go take care of business. Your offense is intact. There's no reason the Chargers offense shouldn't, maybe you give up a couple loose touchdowns, but that's not part of my prediction this week, because I'm going to say bold prediction, game prediction, combo doggy here. I'm going to say the Chargers in a bold predictions shut out the Houston Texans.
Okay.
I have them winning this week 31-0. Defense that we know is flawed, a defense that we know is banged up. I'm going to say they put a goose egg on the Houston Texans this week, and have a lot of things to build off going into the playoff run that they're trying to go for down the stretch of this season, right? Because it all is a playoff run at this point. You have to win out, and then you make the playoffs, and that's, you can't worry about, if you're worrying about other teams, you're not doing something right, because you have your destiny in your hands. You cannot lose this game. Trap game, letdown game, whatever. You can't lose this game to this team. They beat the Jaguars last week with a healthy team, and a team coming off of losing their coach 13 games into his NFL coaching career. They shouldn't be beating anyone else besides that, and that's why 2 of their 3 wins have come from, against the Jaguars. And they have some lopsided blowouts, on their resume so far already this year. So Chargers with the dudes that they have. I mean, yeah, there's a great chance they don't shut them out. That's why it's a bold prediction. I mean, there's a great chance they get, 13 points and win 34-13 or something. I'm going to say 31-0. Chargers with a statement win. No, you can't be a statement win over a Texans team minus 20 players. So
Right.
Chargers need to absolutely take care of business. They need to give us some victory brisket. They need to give us a victory Monday show. And most importantly, they have to give us the best Christmas present and all, and that's the Chargers not playing down to the level of their competition.
You
and that's
better not, especially since I bought field level tickets to this game. You better show up.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm not even gonna say anything. Like, the Chargers have to win this. Like, I was just saying, like, obviously, like, who knows what teams are gonna be playing when these two teams match up. We're doing this on Thursday night. You had to make it to Sunday. So the most important thing is no more names popping up on the COVID list for the Chargers, because David has to watch Easton Stick play this weekend, and it's not because the Chargers are up 31-0. He might never go to a Chargers game again. But saying all we want for Christmas is the Chargers win, move to 9-6 on the season, keep pace in the AFC, and have a chance to, win out the rest of the year and make it into the playoffs and see what happens, right? Because that's what it is. Make it to the playoffs.
Get your ticket to the dance and see what happens.
So, Chargers, take care of business this week, and we will have a fun show for you guys on Monday. To make sure you don't miss it, make sure to go subscribe to the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and follow the show wherever you get your podcast from, whether that's Spotify, Google Podcasts, the TuneIn app, the new Odyssey app, or wherever you get your podcast from, and rate and review if you like the show as well. We also post the show to all of our social media, so you can find the show on our Twitter at LockedOnLAC and our new Instagram page at Locked On Chargers, as well as our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. You can find me on Twitter at Dan Talk Sports. I say some stupid stuff on there sometimes. Find David Drogemeyer on Twitter at DroTalkSD. He says even dumber stuff than me.
Oh, yes.
And you can also, make sure that you interact and stuff with us on there. We appreciate it. And get your reactions to the game on our voicemail line at 323-524-7924. But hopefully the Chargers can give everyone the Christmas present that they most desperately want. And hopefully you all get great Chargers gear and all the Chargers things that you want for Christmas, most importantly. So Merry Christmas to everybody. We had fun being here with you guys on this show, and we will be back with you guys on Monday. But until then, take it easy and go Bolts.